Hey everyone and welcome. This is Nabeela and you're listening to me read my latest article for Reimagine Success on Substack. And this article is part 2 of a 3-part career advice series. If you missed last week's article, you can find it on my Substack. It's titled Should I Stay or Should I Go? Part 1. In this week's article, we're going to focus on step 2 of any career exploration journey, which is all about the process of introspection in a career transition or in a major life decision. Now, the first question I'm going to ask you guys is, have you ever created a plan for your life? Not a business plan, not a workout regimen or a 5-year career development roadmap, but a real plan for your actual life. One that asks, how is my life working for me today? What do I want to feel, build, and experience tomorrow? What does success look like on my terms? Before you can answer the question, what kind of career do I want? You need to answer a more foundational one. What kind of life do I want? The problem is very few people stop to ask that question because we've all allowed our careers to disproportionately, if not entirely, shape our lives. The default path. In childhood and adolescence, you start to understand the concepts of work, money, and careers. You could be heavily shaped by your parents, meaning there's a high level of grooming and preparation for what you will be when you grow up, as well as which types of careers hold value and which do not. Alternatively, you could have little to no preparation. And in that case, you're essentially being influenced by school or friends. As you move out of high school and into college, you fumble through what to study, uncertain and confused about how it will all fit together, what type of job you will actually be able to find, and how you're going to make it in life. After college, you struggle to find a job, and when you finally get one, you're eternally grateful. You feel like all that struggle up to this point has been worth it, and you've made it into the so-called adult world. But the euphoria wears off quickly. That job you were dreaming of soon starts to feel suffocating, you start missing family dinners, and you give up hobbies so you can stay focused, work weekends, and put your head down to hustle. Other aspects of your life start to suffer. You're not sleeping well, your social health is non-existent, and before you know it, you start to feel contentment, burnout, and underappreciation, but you push through anyway. However, the workload continues to grow, life at home becomes increasingly demanding, and you're unsure what to do. Maybe you should change jobs. Maybe you should change industries. Perhaps you should consider starting your own business. Sound familiar? So often we find ourselves on the relentless wheel of overwork, burnout, and toxic productivity. It's because we've allowed our work to define the shape of our entire lives. It's no wonder so many people assume that switching companies, changing industries, or starting a business will bring relief. But here's the truth. Changing your job isn't what gets you off the default path. Redefining success is. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to be intentional, to have a plan that allows you to see your life in its totality so that you have a counterweight to the default where work defines our lives. To pause and to do the deep work of introspection, of questioning the stories, beliefs, and inherent definition of success that has guided you so far. Because if we want to make meaningful career decisions, we have to begin with a more expansive question. What does success mean across the entirety of my life? I know I'm asking a lot because we live in an era of uncertainty and anxiousness where figuring out even the simplest of tasks feels overwhelming. But I assure you, this activity will start to help you see things more clearly. A multidimensional definition of success. So how do you do this? The first step is to broaden the domains of your life that you are intentionally and actively planning. Below is a wheel of the 7 life domains. These are areas of your life that are essential for long-term happiness, fulfillment, and success. The 7 domains of life are mental and emotional, physical, spiritual, relational, financial, environmental, and professional. You may not relate to every domain equally, and that's okay. The point is to broaden your sense of identity, fulfillment, and investment in yourself. To move from a one-dimensional definition to a portfolio life where you intentionally invest, grow, and plan each domain. How do you plan a domain of your life? Well, there are 8 building blocks to think about around your life plan, and each can be applied to every life domain. Step 1 is to define your current state. Step 2 is to define your future state. Step 3 is to define the urgency and importance of each domain, because that ebbs and flows throughout your different phases of your life. To do a gap analysis, to do a root cause analysis, to define personal commitments, to identify potential roadblocks, and define accountability mechanisms. Sound like a business plan? Well, that's precisely the point. It's about applying the same level of due diligence to your life that you do to your career. As you work through the 8 building blocks, you'll ask yourself questions like, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? And what must be true for me to feel fulfilled? Then you keep digging even deeper by exploring what's your baseline, which are the non-negotiables you must protect, and what challenges or transitions that you can anticipate that might take place in the future. In my article, if you look it up on Substack, you'll see an example of the types of questions you'll ask and possible answers for the mental and emotional domain. I've also created a guide called the Life Canvas, which I've developed that allows you to explore and process your ideas, thoughts, and beliefs across each domain. Important to note that you don't need to plan all 7 domains of your life at once, but you should never plan your career or finances without at least 2 other domains in mind. So for example, you might plan your career plus your relational health and your physical health. In another example, you might plan your career along with your spiritual health and your mental health. The key is to build a counterweight to the gravitational pull of professional ambition, so you don't martyr your whole self at the altar of work. If you want to download a free copy of the Life Canvas, you can download the template on my Substack. So how does this impact or influence a career decision or transition? Now imagine you're in a stable position at work, but there's been a few rounds of layoffs and the workload has become more challenging to manage. As a result of the changes, you were offered a promotion and you feel grateful to even have a job and are compelled to take that promotion. It sounds reasonable on paper, but your mom has recently been diagnosed with a serious illness and your emotional and physical bandwidth is already stretched. Instead of allowing a sense of duty, gratitude, or fear to drive you into a decision, you pause before you say yes. You map out your priorities and you recognize that taking this promotion will further compromise your health and presence at home. Now you're not deciding in isolation. You're deciding with clarity. It's not a no out of fear. It's a no that invests in other parts of your life that needs you right now. That's the power of a life plan. It reframes trade-offs, it quiets the scarcity mindset, it gives you a broader perspective. Anchor your decisions in alignment. Career clarity doesn't start with your resume. It starts with your life in focus. When you root your career choices in the life you want to live, everything changes. You make braver decisions, you trade fear for focus, you stop outsourcing your worth. This isn't about overhauling your life overnight. It's about building an intentional, insourced, and personal compass for your life, one that encompasses the entirety of your life. In next week's article, I'll zoom in specifically on the job search and professional growth domain. I know that things are difficult out there and everyone is looking for some guidance, so stay tuned. Until next time, take care of yourself and those around you. A few friendly reminders. The group chat on my Substack channel has been open to free and paid members. If you've been reading quietly, this is your cue to join the conversation, bring your thoughts, your questions, and your uncertainty. Let's make this a space where we can wrestle with significant shifts together with honesty, curiosity, and a bit of hope. I'm genuinely excited to see you all there. And lastly, I'm excited to host my first Substack live with some seriously talented, thoughtful humans I've invited to the Reimagine Success orbit. So Cindy N. Gordon will be joining me. She's the Chief People Officer of Madison Energy Infrastructure. And Laura Hammond will be joining me. She's a Chief People Officer and Principal at The People. We'll be addressing your questions about work, transition, burnout, purpose, ambition, and more. Nothing is off limits. So make sure you subscribe, stay tuned, and bring your questions. All right, see you guys out there. Take care.